So today we're going to talk about opportunities for innovation in digital marketing, and I'm going to talk briskly and talk fast. So if I'm going too quick, raise your hand or tell me to quiet down. My name is Paul Sundue. I work in advertising in New York City for a venerable, established advertising agency, DDB. It's been around for 60 years or so, and I manage digital strategy and production there. I've been there personally for 7 years and feel very grateful for the opportunity. And to answer the question that I'm sure you all had the moment I walked out on stage, and thanks to the intro, yes, it is exactly like Mad Men. The only difference is, at work, we drink more. So everything I'm going to talk about with you guys is going to be completely out of date 6 months from now or less. So if in 6 months we're not even going to have computers like we know them now. We're all talking about wearables. It will be like some sort of mesh network of interconnected hats. So if you're watching this at some point in the future and you're YouTubing it or what have you, and you check the freshness date and it's beyond 6 months, then by all means you can have the time back. You can watch some adorable cat videos. You could play some Flappy Bird. I understand it's coming back. Or better yet, you could watch some videos by PewDiePie. Right? You guys know PewDiePie here? Anybody? Yeah, right? He's Sweden, Stockholm. PewDiePie is like, he's the biggest star on YouTube. And it's staggering. If you don't know, he sits at home, he with his girlfriend, and they narrate video games while they play them. They record it, and the company that I guess distributes it or pays for it was just bought by Disney last week for $500 million. And this guy's like 20 years old. And so here I am in Stockholm. If anybody knows PewDiePie or can get me in contact with him, I'm dying to meet the guy. I want my Christmas card this year to be me and PewDiePie. And maybe his girlfriend, PewDiePie. Cutie-Pie, right? She's on the other side. This formidable list, responsive design, how to get likes, HTML5, this represents things that I'm not going to talk about in this presentation. You guys are pros. You've had 2 or 3 days of this. You have lifetimes of this. The last thing you need is some painfully quick-talking guy from New York City coming in and telling you how to make a responsive site. Instead, what we're going to talk about are opportunities. And these opportunities are going to be based on some observable trends that I've had the good fortune to get a sense of during my tenure in advertising. And my job every day in the business is I toil in the advertising mines, and I break rocks. And the idea is that I'm there to glean little gemstones of information that are meaningful and to share them with my clients and now with you. And at any given time during this process, this rock-breaking process, I'm keeping one eye on the canary in the mine. And the floor of the mine, however, it's littered with dead canaries, waist deep in dried canary corpses. But hopefully, from these feathered friends, we can work together and come up with some meaningful insights. And I'll talk about how hopefully those relate to brands, agencies, and technology providers today. So just a sense of where these trends and insights are coming from. At any given time, in any given year, I'm working with 15 to 20 brands. And they're very large, established brands. And about half of those tend to be global. At any given time, we're collaboratively working with 5 to 10 partner agencies. You might not be aware of this, but brands nowadays don't just have one agency. That is sort of very old school. That's like 70s or 80s. Nowadays, brands have fleets of agencies, like small armadas of agencies. They've got a social agency. They've got a creative agency, a CRM agency, an analytics agency. We have one particular brand. I believe they have an agency dedicated entirely to salad. We also work with dozens of production partners who help sort of wire this stuff together with us and bring it to life. And many of them are located in Stockholm. Nansen, for example, whom we work with frequently and was instrumental in getting me out here, and thank you for that. Be Real, another Swedish enterprise, and another company called Starmind, that all three I highly recommend if you get the chance to work with them. And the output of all of this is hundreds of projects every year that range in size from the smallest, lowliest, postage stamp-sized banner ad that will forever go unloved and unclicked upon. All the way to enterprise-class e-commerce sites with dozens and dozens of languages. And one note about these guys in the middle, I hope it's clear to you from the effusiveness with which I speak how much I love what I do, and I love the brands I do it for. And I don't want any of these guys to be sitting saying, oh, geez, this guy, he's going to spill the beans. He's gonna let him in on all our secrets, like the fact that nobody ever clicks on the banner ads. This guy's like the Julian Assange of banner ads. Not my intent. My intent is to anonymize and aggregate data so that we can all learn from it. So that'll bring me right into trend number 1, which is what brands are asking for. And this will be a little, I think, unique and contrary to what you guys have heard otherwise. I was at a meeting at Google last October, and it was in California. I was very fortunate and pleased to be invited. And this incredibly smart guy who I was awestruck by stood at the front of the room, and he pulled up this slide. And so I did what any good advertising guy does when he sees something he likes. I stole it. Only 6% of marketing decisions are informed by data. And the other 94% are informed by some kind of sort of cocktail of moxie, gut instinct, tarot cards, and tea leaves. But when you're trying to be a good corporate citizen and you're trying to sort of work that 6% and make your decisions based on analytics and insight, you quickly find that this stuff is getting exponentially more complex. And you guys are familiar with it. I got all kinds of inputs here. I've got my, my brand site. I've got my e-commerce site. I've got mobile applications. I've got whatever microsites that my agency beguilingly convinced me to make this year. I've got my CRM platform, paid search, the content platform, display ads, social posts, sales data in many cases, and then it's all tied together by consumer feedback that theoretically is telling me whether or not this stuff is effective and whether people like it. And each one of these are spewing and retching different kinds of data, telling you about what's going on and the sort of given state, what their sort of heartbeat is like. It's not unlike that great scene from the movie Aliens, where the android bishop was ripped in two by the alien queen. Do you remember that? And the walls on the ceiling were covered with android guts. The data's like that. It's on the walls and the ceiling. Fortunately, there are lots of great tools and platforms to help make sense of all this data. There's Google Analytics, you've got Blue Kai, you've got Radian 6, Mixpanel, and Omniture, amongst a myriad of options. And what all of these things do wonderfully is they help make sense of data associated with their particular ecosystem, right? So if you're doing behavioral targeting on Blue Kai, you get great results so long as you're working within their network. If you're using Google Analytics, it's ideally suited for site data. You can create event tracking data for things that are sort of ancillary to your site, and you can tie it into the Google DoubleClick network and paid search. But if you want to tie in your social network, well, you got to use another tool or set of tools to manage that. So, this reminds me of a true story. I was invited to a big meeting for a global brand. You would recognize the name. And it's, although I'm not going to tell you who it is, you can come up to me afterwards and ask me, I'll whisper it to you. And it's in a huge conference room, big ornate building, marble table, 30 chairs on either side, floor to ceiling windows. It's like the conference room at the beginning of the movie The Hudsucker Proxy. I don't know if you saw that one, but when it couldn't be grander and more cathedral-like, on the top floor of this midtown skyscraper. And let me tell you, when it all gets to be too much, and it's too overwhelming, and you decide to end it all after all the 3 martini lunches and the the firm handshakes. This is the room you pitch yourself out of onto Madison Avenue. It's for the raw dramatic effect. So we're all brought together by our brand, and they pull in another agency. And it's a data analytics agency that specializes in CRM and pulling all this information together. And they stand at the front of the room, and a particularly smart fellow leads the engagement. And this guy, he looks the part. He's dressed impeccably. He's got years of experience. He articulates himself with composure and grace. He's so smart, he's got a monocle. I'm not sure that's an indication of intelligence, but I was impressed. And this guy draws a schematic on the board, and it shows the consumer life cycle on behalf of this client, right? They're all trying to make sense of all this data. And this guy demonstrates how they can map across a user from basically birth to death. They can create a behavioral model of exactly what the consumer is doing. They'll know that the consumer was 22 years old and they saw a particular display ad. They'll know the user became, turned 24, got an email that was customized and targeted based on the information in this display ad. They'll know whether or not you clicked on the link on the email, and the experience you have on the e-commerce site will vary depending on all of those inputs. And then, like 10 years later, when the consumer has offspring, they'll be able to map their DNA and invent products that the children will find interesting. And so the guy wraps it all together, and everybody's delighted. Like, there's just people burst into spontaneous applause. From this point forward, advertising has become a science. The guy has cracked it. And the grown men sort of stand up, and they're applauding, and the client is openly weeping with joy. And the client stands up, and they just reach into their pockets, and they start forking over fistfuls of money onto the table. And so there's nothing else for this guy to do afterwards but to sort of scrape all the money up, and he stuffs it into his pants awkwardly, and he waddles out. So 6 weeks later, I'm sitting at my desk, and I get a call, and they invite me to go visit, and I'm excited. Boy, this is tricky. I can't wait to see how they're going to pull it off. And so I go and visit their conference room, and it's considerably less ornate than the jumpy one. And I sit down, and the super smart guy sits across from me, right? And he's got his disciples there, and they say, "Hi, Paul. How's it going?" I say, "Oh, it's great, guys. I'm happy to be here." They said, "Great," and I sort of settle in. I've got my popcorn. I'm ready to hear what they tell me. And the guy says, "Yeah, we've got a question for you." And I said, "Well, what's that?" "How do we do this?" "Well, what do you mean, how do you do? Who are you? You're asking me? I'm the brand guy. I'm here to build websites, and you're the ones who are going to wire it all together for business insight and intelligence." And I was, "Oh no, we were just kidding. We wouldn't really ask you that. That's absurd. It was a little advertising humor." But no, seriously, if you were going to do it, how would you do it? Would you use cookies? Yeah, it's a little internet humor. So we worked together collaboratively, and we built the whole thing out, and we built it entirely custom. And to the smart guy's credit, the smart guy with the monocle, which is just, it's wet all the time. I think it's dripping with wisdom. He led the charge. He drove the bus and helped us sort of architect this thing. And when all was said and done, we had sort of fulfilled about 75% of the promises that this guy had made in the first meeting. And the client was pleased, which made us pleased, and it was more or less a success. But now, why am I telling you this particular story? One enthusiastically described event does not a trend make. Some flavor of this story has happened to me 3 times in the past year with 3 different brands across 3 different categories and 4 different supporting agencies playing the role of the smart guy. So what can we learn from that? What are the opportunities? Well, if you're a brand, if you're not proactively already trying to tie all this information together and try to make some sense of it, and I'm not saying it's easy by any means, well, rest assured, your competitors already are, or at least the 3 that I interacted with are. So the onus is on you to get ahead of the game. If you're an agency, providing behavioral data services as a core competency, it's beyond time that you begin. Hire talent that can execute against this discipline, or at a minimum, hire talent that can speak cogently about it so you can participate in a meaningful way, amidst this group of folks. And again, this is a service business. Your clients are asking for this. Listen to your clients. And then if you're a technology provider, you guys have the hardest job, because I don't necessarily think that there is sort of one platform to rule them all that's built in this kind of way. I'd beg you to build something, if only to make my life easier, so I don't have to live through this again. But it's not necessarily always a technology problem. Businesses are like snowflakes, and it may be an organization problem. Which leads me into trend number 2, which is what brands are not asking for. So I had the crack folks in the DDB analytics department pull together some numbers for me before I came out here, and 35%. 35% represents the percent of unique visits we get across all of our sort of digital campaign elements, regardless of size and scale, that are visiting via mobile devices in 2014. And again, I'm not divulging any secret brand data. I'm glomming all this together so that we can all learn from it. So 35%. And last year, it was 24%. And the year before that, it was a paltry 13%. And I had to skew these numbers. We had a set of youth-oriented brands that are, the number was even higher. It was 50%. And if I'd included that with those numbers, they would have looked even more ridiculous. And these projects we're doing aren't necessarily designed for mobile. They're just stuff that happens to be on the internet, and these numbers, 50% and 35%, are the percentage of people who are visiting them via their mobile device. We had one campaign last year for a large domestic company it was a great campaign. It was altruistic in nature. The idea was you would come up with a way to give back to your community. And you would design this way to give back to your community and submit it to this program, this campaign. And the best results would be given grant money so that you could give back. It was like a Kickstarter sort of experience. And it was terrific. Not contrary to what you guys may think, not everything we do in the advertising business is terrific. But this one was. I was really proud of it. But it couldn't have been less designed for mobile. There were dozens and dozens of onerous form fields to fill out. And literally, there were 3 fields that required 1,000-word essays on the behalf of the consumer. They had to enter to get all this information in there. If you, a particularly clever sparrow with a needle-like beak, ideally suited for eating grubs and breaking seeds and pecking away at form fields on a smartphone, would have had trouble filling all of this information out. And when all was said and done, forget mobile first, this experience was mobile last. We still had 32% of consumers finishing it on their mobile devices. Another example, this is a piece we did for another domestic company, and it was an iAd, and it's supposed to be fun and energetic, and a big robot comes to your town and blows it up. And Frederick, if you would be so kind as to play this. so we built that piece. You can stop the video. Thank you so much. It went over tremendously well. Robot comes to your town, blows things up. You saw it, and it's all tied to your individual location. It uses AR-like functionality, so you hold up the camera and you can sort of see it stomp around. It pulls in data via the Google Maps Street View API, and it creates an innovative experience. And what's funny about this, and this is really, I'm starting to get to my point, is you know who asked us to do this? Nobody. Nobody ever asked us for a mobile experience. Nobody asked us to make anything related to the phone. We're sitting around in a room, and we made something comparable the year prior, actually, again with the Swedish production company, and it went over very well. And we said, hey, wouldn't it be cooler if we could do it on the phone? Yeah, it would be. That would be fun. That would be great. So we pulled it all together, and we got the sort of concept information together, and we pitched it to the client, who was terrific. They were very receptive. They said, that sounds great, guys. We can't wait. We'd be happy to maybe give it a try. Just tell us how much it costs. And we did what we always do when there's something we really want to do, and the client asks us how much it costs. We said it $1. And that's a testament to the big number in this presentation, or rather the little number. 2% is my number. We've already established that 35% of folks right now are interacting with all of this digital stuff on their mobile devices at any given time, even when we're doing a half-assed job in creating compelling experiences. 2% represents the sum total of the number of client requests we get for mobile engaging experiences. It's just a staggeringly large gap, and that brings me to my next set of opportunities. So in the case of brands, the gap between consumers and advertisers in this space is only going to shrink. We've got this sort of unique moment right now where to strike while the iron is hot. There are financial bargains to be had. You can pay pennies on the dollar for media in the mobile space than you would pay on either traditional desktop or certainly print and broadcast. Now is the ideal opportunity to make lots of mistakes, experiment, and see how it works out, but while the risk is fairly low. For agencies, same thing. The risk is lower because it costs less. Do some innovative work in this space, win some awards, make your name. This is uncharted territory for most everybody. And for technology providers, you guys are right there in the middle. Your job is to bridge the gap between everybody. There's a huge, wide expanse between what consumers are actually doing and the amount of material we're creating for them from a marketing perspective in the mobile space. Your job is to climb down into the mine and take advantage of that gap, break some rocks, but by all means, keep one eye on the canary. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you.
Perfect.
It was fun.
Great. Do we have any questions from Twitter, Miriam?
No questions.
No questions.
A lot of comments.
Very good reviews, though. Where is Sweden on your sort of landscape in the digital world? Is it?
Sweden's at the peak of the digital world. Are you kidding? Between the esteemed DDB Sweden is very well known. DDB Stockholm on the advertising world, and then from a technology perspective, I mean, you've got Mojang, Dice. PewDiePie, as I mentioned.
PewDiePie is actually from Göteborg, Gothenburg, the West Coast. But anyway, we're going there as well. So it's
okay. Next, can I go?
You can come to. We're going to go to Göteborg in September, so you're welcome. But thank you very much for coming. It was a pleasure to have you, and please hang around and ask for questions from the audience later on. Thank you very much, and a big round of applause.